So rather than making two videos about the same topic that we will rinse and repeat the same talking points, I wanted to combine the Vancouver Canucks and Montreal Canadiens discourse that I've been seeing a lot of this afternoon into one video. Because this all seems to have come after that Trevor Zegras trade that happened earlier this morning. I've seen a lot of Canucks fans and I've seen a lot of Canadiens fans expressing similar sentiments of FOMO. Because it seems to me that Habs fans and Canucks fans are looking at the trade price that Philadelphia sent Anaheim's way to get Zegras. Ryan Poehling, a second and a fourth. And folks in these fan bases are saying, man, we really missed out. We missed out! Could Kent Hughes not have paid something in that range? Couldn't Kent Hughes have paid a little bit more than just Ryan Poehling, a second and a fourth, to get Zegras in Montreal? Could Vancouver, Patrick Allvin, could he have not done the same thing? And I wanted to make this video to address those sentiments, because I know it is going to come up. There are going to be people commenting in the comment section of Canucks and Habs related videos talking about Zegras. And for somebody like me who makes videos primarily on these two teams, it's very understandable why. So I'll just say this right here. Montreal would not have been a fit for Zegras. I know there are folks, especially on the Habs subreddit, who have brought it up like, hey, it's a pretty cheap price. Kent Hughes couldn't have bested that. And I think speaking about it in that way ignores most of the point as to why Zegras and Montreal wouldn't be a good fit, because the Habs already have too many guys that are in that Zegras age range that aren't really doing too hot. Z was drafted in 2019. You know who else was drafted in 2019? Cole Caulfield. He's doing actually pretty well. But taken after Cole Caulfield in the 2019 draft is Alex Newhook. Taken 6 picks before Zegras in the 2019 draft was Kirby Dach. Taken a few years earlier, in 2016, is Patrik Laine as well. The Montreal Canadiens, with Dach, Newhook, and Laine, they already have enough guys in their team, assuming, of course, Laine ends up coming back. But the Habs already have enough guys in their organization that are in that age range that are still trying to find their way. And you can debate, oh, is Laine still trying to find his way? Yeah, he's finding his way. He didn't have a great season this previous year, even though he had the crazy goal records and goal streaks. We all acknowledge that he can be better and that he needs to be better to provide the value that he's worth. There are too many guys like this in Montreal, and with a top 6 featuring half of them, you could say, there may not necessarily be enough room for another one to be placed in the middle to bottom 6. The Habs' top line, Suzuki, Caulfield, Slafkovsky, heck, even Slafkovsky isn't guaranteed to being amazing right off the bat. He needs to start getting his foot in front of him earlier on. But the Montreal Canadiens have too many guys that are trying to grow and trying to become better, who have been slowed down by injuries and who are trying to re-find their way. Getting another one, sure, while the potential is all going to be there, if Laine, if Dach, if Newhook, if Zegras, if they all play up to their potential, then the team looks great. But we've seen over the past few years that you can't rely on them to do that. It's just not realistic to have them all playing to their potential at the same time, especially at the start of whatever season that you have them in. And also, this was a talking point that I saw posted on the Canadian subreddit. Dan094 said, in regards to Zegras, I'm very happy we didn't get him. The last thing the Montreal Canadiens needed was another Drouin. Inconsistent, injury-prone, one-dimensional winger with motivation issues. If you feed your growing and maturing team learning how to win with crappy parts, the result will be crap. A reply here says that there were real issues with Drouin, but for the price to get Zegras, I'd trade for 2017 Drouin any day. The main issue was giving up Sergachev to get him. Then Dan goes out there and says there's a concept of too many projects. Laine and Dach are already struggling with the exact same issues as Zegras. You can't put 3 struggling players together and poof, all of a sudden they found their game and reached their full potential. We will never make the playoffs like that. Right now, you need players that know their role very well and can elevate the young players and help them succeed. Like Crosby. LOL. Yeah, okay, we can talk about Crosby another day, but I like the way that they articulated that point. There are too many guys in the Habs organization that are going through similar things as Zegras. Getting one more would be kind of redundant, even though the top-tier version of the Canadiens, should all of them max out and reach their top potential, it looks great. But you're just not guaranteed to getting that. It's not a realistic outcome short-term. Now, when it comes to the Vancouver Canucks, I've been seeing this talked about as well. When the Zegras trade was made, Dan Riccio of Sportsnet 650 went out there and retweeted it saying, hey, Paling, 45th overall and 4th overall, that's the price for Zegras, and Minnesota wants 15th overall plus extra stuff for Rossi? Good luck. A reply here from Jordan says that Canucks could have gotten Marchment and Zegras for a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and Bluger. What's the holdup, you think? They're missing out on everyone. Marchment had trade protection. It's reasonable to guess Canadian teams were on his list. And there are a few number of replies to this original tweet talking about, like, hey, is this a player that the Canucks would have needed? Would they have needed a guy like Marchment? I actually do think that the Canucks would have been really nice with Marchment. I like him a lot, but Vancouver is in a spot where the fact that they've been so linked to Marco Rossi, I think, is a much more positive way to approach this offseason than Trevor Zegras. The folks on the Canucks subreddit were talking about this too, like, was Zegras really an option for Vancouver? Considering there's been almost no chatter about the Canucks being interested, Crayon Olympics' guess is no. I don't think he was ever considered by management because he's not really their kind of player. Z wouldn't have been a surefire 2C, but I think acquiring him to play as a winger could have been an interesting bet. That way he'd have less defensive responsibility, could add some offensive dynamism to the lineup, and he could potentially work his way back to playing center in the future. Or at least fill in at center when there are injuries. The reply says that the Canucks are, or were, the frontrunners for Rossi, then I can't imagine Alvin pursuing Zegras unless that fell through. With Garland, Höglander, and Lekaramaki in the top 6, that would be too small. At least Rossi is a legit 2C. And on the wings, I'd prefer more size. That is, of course, just one person's thought, but even the next comment here from Greg the Great says that Zegras would be a pretty terrible fit on the Canucks with this team and its identity. I'm not surprised we didn't have interest in him. Rossi would make a lot more sense even with his height. And that is probably the biggest thing here. Rossi, he's a lot more just dynamic and dangerous when he doesn't have the puck compared to Trevor Zegras. Rossi's really smart, and he also has more of a willingness, I feel, to play the center position properly, get into the areas he needs to get to. He isn't a pure skill, flash, and flare type of guy like Zegras is with his Michigan goals and fancy passes and dekes. Marco Rossi, I think, is a lot more of a complete player, and even though he is small, you have to think about it, Zegras is also not too tall himself. He's only 6 feet flat. In fact, I actually thought he was 5'11", but Elite Prospects has him at 6. Marco Rossi is 5'9", so definitely smaller, but I think there's a lot more of a poised and calculated, polished-up game that Rossi has compared to Zegras. So I can understand why the price for him would be a lot higher than what Z ended up getting for Anaheim from Philadelphia, but I also do think that the Canucks would not have been a really good fit here. Not to say that Philadelphia is a good fit either. I mean, we already made the video. I think it's a disaster trade for Zegras himself. Rick Tocchet's going to ruin that guy. But for now, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about the Canadiens and the Canucks? Did they miss out on Trevor Zegras by not making the trade for the small price that the Philadelphia Flyers ended up making their trade for? Let me know in the comments all your opinions. I hope you enjoyed this video. Roll 9, and bye.